For a long time, I was fighting in my life to become a success. Like, I went to school, I went to college, I went to all these things. I spent a lot of energy and time getting to where I'm at now. And to some degree it's respectable. It's respectable that I got this far. But the thing is, all these things that I've done, going to school, getting a job, and being able to have flexible time and stuff like that, all these things that I've done are only reflections. They're the ambition that was forced on me as a kid by my parents, by my teachers, by everyone that I was involved with, all the people that were around me. So it wasn't really success that was defined by me. I never got the chance to sit down and define that. But I'm glad that I had to do this on my own. I'm glad that I was given some direction, but then I have realized now that I've never worked towards my own defined success. And I've only recently started thinking about what success means to me. And it's not a very easy. I should have used that to climb up. But it's not something that I really I've taken the time to sit down and think too much about. I've just kind of winged it for a while now. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing now, and then later on I'll figure that out. And then I just spend a lot of time continuing what I'm doing, just being safe, pretty much. Just all the decisions that I make about my life are well, if I was this person, then I would make this decision. Then I would go out and do it, and it would work. It would be it'd be the safest route to take all the time. But I'm starting to learn that the safest routes are always littered with people and traffic. There's always people squeezing into the same ideas. Just when you think about game design, there's always a million people who are climbing up that one ladder. They're all fist fighting for that top spot. And it's only one ladder. It's only one thing. It doesn't there's a million ladders that you can climb up. But there's some of the ladders are more glorified than the other, but they're all ladders. They're all the same thing. It's just that, through marketing and through people and trends and stuff like that, some of them get idolized and turned into these big events and these big things that people want to say are important when they're not really that important. When you think about sports, they're important to some people. They're not important to me, but I can see how they can become fun and become important. But I'm just in general, there's for me, just in general, I'm starting to see that all the things that I've done up until this point have satisfied other people. And it's been satisfying to do things, but I've never sat down and thought about what I want to do, me personally, without anyone else's input. And, you know, like sometimes I'll take what I think in my head and I'll like go and I'll tell a friend, and but they're coming from this, most of the time they're coming from the same mindset of like, well, you know, like they're so used to seeing me fulfill the dreams of, you know, what society wants and stuff like that, that if I go to them, they're going to say like, well, that's crazy. You know, well, what are you doing that for? Like, what are you thinking about that for? Doesn't sound like it's right. It's like you can run. People always think like you can run away from home. It's almost like they're thinking like, oh, he's gonna run off and do this one thing for a little while, and then he's gonna come back and he's gonna say that everyone else was right. And that, you know, you can do that. That will happen if you allow it to. But if you're really wanting to learn about yourself and become your own individual, then it's not going to be safe. It's not going to be easy. Everyone's going to tell you you're wrong. Everyone's going, because they don't understand it. Like, no one, they're afraid. Either they're afraid and they don't want you to have a skill that they don't understand or have. It's kind of like if you're stuck in the water, like my brother just got out of prison recently, and he's been in there for 5 years now. And he told me that he doesn't want to go in there anymore. Like he spent enough time in prison that he wants to stay out. And I told him, that if you want to learn how to fly, then you have to get used to the sky. It sounds so funny, but I didn't say it like that. It didn't rhyme so nicely like that when I told him. I said if you want to learn how to fly, you have to get used to heights, and you have to change your environment. I was like, everyone that we grew up with all lives underwater, so the only thing they understand is being underwater. And because that's the only thing that they understand, the moment you start to leave that world, the moment you start to get up and get out of the water, they're going to question you, and they're going to laugh when you fall back into the water, and they're going to say like, see, I told you it wasn't a good idea. Now you should feel bad about it. Because they don't understand it. I had to go through that same thing when I left home to pursue my dreams or whatever. They weren't my dreams, like I said, they were other people's dreams, and I adopted them, and I'm glad that I did though. Otherwise I wouldn't understand what I understand now. So, continuing on to my brother, I told him like, there's people who live in the water now. Like, they're all living in the water, and they'll never grow wings. It's very painful to grow wings. It's not easy, and a lot of people fail at it, and a lot of people make fun of those people. And the people who are down in, the people who will drag you back down into the old world, those people are pretty much like sharks. Those people they've survived in the water for so long that they've become extremely, they're so like ingrained in the water that they are faster than everyone in the water. They are stronger than everyone in the water. They have teeth. They're sharks. Just like the people who are living in prison for a long time, they're sharks. Like, they have lived in the jail. They've lived in the prison for so long that they know the way to do everything. They have so many tools that they can use that you're at such a huge disadvantage. Just like if you're in the water with a shark, you're at such a huge disadvantage because that's their environment. And I was telling him, like, if you want to change your life and you're tired of living the same life that you're living now, you have to change your environment. It's the only way. It's so easy. If you want to learn how to fly, you have to get used to the sky. Oh, that sounds so funny. I'm going to use that next time I talk to him. I'm going to tell him that. I can't believe that I didn't come up with that when I was over there talking to him. Man, I missed out. I could have told him that. Like, if you want to learn how to fly, you got to get used to the sky. But anyway, I know, like, as much as I want to avoid saying the same thing that all the other sharks would say, I know that if he goes back into the environment that I grew up in, then he's going to just become another statistic. And he knows that, so he's trying to avoid going back to where my home is, like going back to my parents' area, the city they live in. And he wants to try something else. It's going to be very hard for him to get a job and all that because of all his records and stuff. But he's going to try. It's going to be hard. He put himself in that environment, so he learned how to live in that environment. Now he wants to get out. Now he gained all these skills in jail. And none of those, you can't really take there's some things you can take from jail, obviously, that you can use in the real world, but you can't really use a lot of them because a lot of them are made by people who live in jail. And the universe, living outside of everywhere is a prison. Doesn't matter where you're at. So pretty much like, but they're different types of prisons. Like actual prison is its own prison. It's a more confined prison. It has different rules, but it's not different from being outside in the real world. Outside in the real world, it's the same thing. It's just you have rules. There are people out there who want to hurt you. That's why it's lagging. It's a fire. There are fights. There are people who really, really dislike you. Just like the same thing in prison. There's guards, there's alarms, everything like that. There's bars. And so anyway, so getting back to me, I was living by the rules that were put on me, like, and I didn't know this, but I was spending a lot of time getting rid of those rules. And up until this point, like, I didn't know I had all those rules. Like, I couldn't see them because they were so ingrained in me that the only way that I could start seeing them was to sit down and listen. Completely, like, all the way listen. I'll knock him. It's Sparta! Almost fell in there. But the only way I was able to find out about those rules was just to sit down and listen all the way. And I couldn't do that. It took me a long time. The universe had to slam me into the floor and rub my face in the ground for a long time before I was able to just sit down and finally listen. And that, you know, like, I had to go through a lot of things. I had to go through a lot of lessons to understand what I understand now, and it's all I know now is just relax. Really, the overall lesson that I've learned so far in life is just relax, because you're taught to move by everything. Everything is telling you to do something. When you are opening a door, it's telling you to obey the rules of the door. When you are in traffic, there's all kinds of signs telling you to do things. Move here, move there. And then there's like police sitting around telling you like, hey, don't stay around here too long. Get moving. You know, like all the time. Just like that. And everything is telling you to move or do something, and everything is feeding you. Like YouTube is feeding you, games, all these things are all telling you to do something. They're telling you to listen, and they're very enticing about it. They make it so that you get they want you to do it. They manipulate you a lot just so it's the only way to get paid, so it's the only way they can survive. The sharks have to eat. That's pretty much the main thing. And the only way to know that you're being herded around is to just relax. Otherwise, you won't be able to hear. I was walking with my friends one day, like we went hiking, and they were asking me like, well, we came out here to talk to you. We came out here to have a conversation with you because we really want to hear what you have to say. And I said, well, we are having a conversation. Like, you just can't hear me. You can't hear the conversation. And I was like, listen. And they were sitting there like, we started walking and they started listening, and they were like, I can't hear anything. I was like, I know you can't hear anything. I can hear so much. I was like, just sit there and listen. They're like, you're messing with us. I was like, no, I'm not. Totally not. Like, just listen. Like, listen to your feet hitting the ground. Don't just listen with your ears. Listen with your skin and the way it feels the air breeze by. Listen with your eyes and see the desert landscape around you. Listen with every cell in your body, and you'll hear the universe. Then you won't need me to tell you anything. Then you won't need any more conversation. You'll understand that there is so much more interesting conversation happening that has nothing to do with being human. And they're like, they stood for a little while. They're just like, they didn't understand what I was talking about. They were like, what do you mean, just listen to the ground? I was like, yeah. And then they turned to each other and they were like, yeah, they're like, I used to just walk over here by myself, like listening, to the listening to music. And they just like totally blew me off because they couldn't understand. They couldn't hear it. If they could hear all the things that I was talking about, then they would just be like, they probably wouldn't even have anything to say. They would be listening. But eventually they were like, yeah, see, like that, just like that. Actually, that's what they told me. They're like, see, just like that. Just tell us more about what you hear and what you see and all these things. And they're like, tell it like that's, they were like wanting me to explain to them, all the things that were happening around them. And I started to understand, like, this is pretty much how humans are. Like, if you learn how to fly, then when you tell the fish how awesome it is in the sky, then they just want to sit back and imagine it as they're sitting in their comfortable water, as they're sitting like in their, barely tipping their nose out, and they think they're having an experience of flying, and they're just like, yeah, I can understand it. I can understand why it's awesome to fly. Like there's still fish like in the water saying like, I can understand it because I've just barely put my nose outside of the water. I can feel the wind. Now I know what it is to fly. This life is so boring. But they've never actually gotten out of the water. They don't know the intricacies of flying. They don't understand the awesomeness of the sky. They've never seen the horizon. There's so much more to flying than they could even imagine. But because they've stuck their nose out of the water, that little bit of effort, all of a sudden they know everything about flying. All of a sudden they're aviators. It's so funny, like that's how humans are. And that's what they feed in the media too. Like that's what they feed you in advertising. I'm in advertising, so I understand advertising on every level because I get paid to create it. And I'm very good at it. So it's so funny that, you know, people will like they're fish and they're sticking their nose out of the water saying they know what it is to fly in the wind. And then they start saying that life is boring. They're like, yeah, life is so boring. There's nothing to do. I already know everything about life, and they haven't experienced any of it. Oh, actually, I still have some of this. Okay. So don't have to break it down. I think I was using the wrong tool too. But that's just something like my brother won't know what it's like to not be, you know, like he has a lot to learn, but he's a lot, I think in my mind he is a lot more he's a lot stronger than I am. He definitely has a lot less fear than I do. And I definitely like whenever I am in a really tough spot, I just think of him. Like I think of like what he would do, and then I just like go in head first. Even though like if he was in the same situation, he would definitely just be that he would probably be feeling a lot of the same things that I was feeling. And I just I wonder like how he's gonna be in the future. And I wonder like how much of what I told him sunk in. But it's not for me to care anymore. Like he is, like I care about him, but he has his own world. He has his own life to live. Like he has his own thing to do. He has like a lot of lessons to learn. Different lessons. We both are going to learn our own lessons for sure. And I didn't know you could do that. But yeah, like we definitely don't have the same lessons. We have our own paths. But I'm excited to see where he goes and what he does in his life and on his path and his journey. It would be nice to see like him do or get to a point where he feels happy. 'Cause I can tell that he's definitely not happy. And when I'm thinking about myself, like I'm not like ecstatic to wake up in the morning and like go running and do stuff and just be like, oh my God, I love everything in life. But it would be boring if it was like that. You need like everything. You need the bad. You need to taste. You need to have a taste of sadness in order to understand what it is to how it feels to be happy. You need the rain in order to get rainbows. And in order to fly, in order to change your environment, you have to fall and hit the ground. You have to make a lot of mistakes, and you have to be proud of your mistakes. And when you're proud of your mistakes, things happen for you. People are afraid to make mistakes. But mistakes are the only way to learn. Even if they're mistakes that you know you're making, like knowingly make those mistakes, so that way you understand things from your own perspective and not the perspective of another person. When someone tells you that it's awesome to fly, don't believe them. Don't believe a person who says that they enjoy flying. Like, don't believe anything. Just believe yourself. Believe. That's why when people ask me if I have a religion now, before I used to say no, I'm whatever, you know, like I just don't believe. I don't believe in. Now when they ask me like, what do you believe in? I say I believe in myself. I believe that I'm the only person that's right. Because I am. And if not, then I will learn that in time what is wrong and what is wrong about what I know. But the only way to know those things is for me to sit down and claim it. Just like with my brother, I'm happy that he wants to change, but it's up to him to go out and do it. Has nothing to do with me. As far as me, as far as I go, I have definitely a lot to learn, but the only way to get all those things and the only way to actually start is just to relax. If you watch The Wolf of Wall Street and you see just the very beginning when he's sitting with the mentor, what is that guy? McConaughey. Whoa! When he's sitting at the table with McConaughey, and McConaughey is just like, he was like, he's like, you gotta learn how to relax. And then he tells him how he relaxes. And he tells them that you gotta use cocaine and all these things. You don't have to use cocaine, but there are many ways to learn how to relax. And the way I learn how to relax is to start listening. Because the universe is speaking to you. And it's not just speaking to you using words. Every time you have an idea, just listen. Think of an idea and just listen. And you will hear something. You'll hear a return. You'll hear the universe talk back to you. It could be a feeling in your gut. It could be a lady walking by talking to her friend and she's like, yeah, that's a really good idea. It could be a knock at the door. It could be the wind brushing against your ear, telling you that, or giving you its assurance. It could be dead silence. Dead silence is its own kind of answer. It's its own kind of way of saying yes or no, depending on how you feel about it. Everyone's built with a guidance system inside, with instincts. Instincts that only you can know about. They're not defined by any book, by me, by anyone else. They're just defined by you over time. Through experience, you gain wisdom. The only way to learn is by doing. So those are my thoughts for this Minecraft, and I'm going to, whoa. That was pretty funny. Killed him with a tomahawk. Anyway, I appreciate you guys for listening. I'm definitely feeling relaxed, and I'm going to catch you guys later. See ya.